In the ancient heartland of Mesopotamia, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers weave life into the land, a nomadic people emerged from the western frontiers, the Amorites. With origins rooted in the arid lands of present-day Syria and beyond, the Amorites were not a single, unified nation but rather a collection of tribes bound by shared language, culture, and spirit. They were known for their resilience and adaptability, enduring the harsh landscapes of their homeland and thriving despite the odds. This resourcefulness would serve them well as they ventured eastward into the heart of Mesopotamia, drawn by the lure of fertile lands, water, and the promise of prosperity. Early on, the Amorites were seen as outsiders by the more established Sumerian and Akkadian city-states. These urban centers viewed the Amorites as rugged, untamed tribes, people of the steppe, who lacked the refinement of city life. But the Amorites, with their nomadic knowledge and adaptability, proved to be more than mere wanderers. Today, we uncover the story of the Amorites, their journey from wandering tribes to mighty rulers, from the fringes of civilization to the pinnacle of Mesopotamian power. Through their story, we find a testament to the spirit of survival and adaptability, a civilization whose legacy shaped the rise of powerful cities and empires that would echo through the corridors of history. The story of the Amorites begins in the semi-arid lands of western Syria, a landscape marked by rugged mountains, rolling plains, and desert expanses. These lands were harsh, yet they were home to the Amorites, a resilient people whose way of life was deeply tied to the rhythms of nature. Living as nomadic tribes, the Amorites roamed these lands with their herds, relying on their skill in herding and resourcefulness to survive the ever-present challenges of this region. Amorite society was structured around extended families and clans, each bound by shared heritage and a profound connection to their ancestral land. They relied on one another in times of need and developed a culture rooted in endurance and adaptability. Their skills in animal husbandry were honed by necessity. Livestock provided food, clothing, and a degree of stability in an otherwise unpredictable environment. Over time, however, their homeland's resources proved insufficient for a growing population. The Amorites faced increasing competition for water and pasture, essential resources that were becoming scarcer due to both natural and human pressures. Compelled by these challenges, they looked eastward, toward the fertile river valleys of Mesopotamia, where the Tigris and Euphrates promised abundant water, fertile soil, and new opportunities. This migration would bring the Amorites into contact with one of the world's oldest and most advanced civilizations. The journey was not easy. The Amorites had to adapt their way of life to new environments, moving from the open plains and deserts of Syria into the river valleys, where settled city-states already claimed the land. Their arrival was met with mixed reactions. The settled populations of Mesopotamia regarded the Amorites as outsiders, nomads from the west, who disrupted the carefully balanced order of their city-states. Ancient texts describe them as uncultured, a people of the steppe who lived in tents, drank milk, and moved with their herds. A stark contrast to the urban sophistication of Sumerian cities like Ur and Lagash. But the Amorites were not easily discouraged. Gradually, they integrated into Mesopotamian society, forming small enclaves along trade routes and in the outskirts of cities. They took up farming, learned the local language, and began to adopt the customs and beliefs of their new neighbors. Though often marginalized, they found ways to thrive, using their deep knowledge of survival and adaptability as tools to navigate the complexities of urban life. By the 3rd millennium BCE, Amorite communities had taken root in Mesopotamia. They began to make their mark on the region, not by conquering but by integrating. Through trade, intermarriage, and strategic alliances, they became woven into the social fabric of Mesopotamian society. And as they settled, their influence grew, evolving from outsiders to essential players in the cities they once only observed from afar. The Amorites' migration into Mesopotamia was not just a journey of survival, it was a pivotal movement that would reshape the destiny of the ancient world. Over the centuries, they would rise to power, transform local politics, and establish their own dynasties. What began as a search for new resources would ultimately lead the Amorites to a position of unprecedented influence, as they laid the foundation for what would become one of the most celebrated empires of the ancient world. The presence of the Amorites in Mesopotamia did not go unnoticed. Their interactions with the early civilizations of Sumer and Akkad are well documented in ancient cuneiform texts, which give us glimpses into how the Mesopotamian cities perceived these newcomers. To the Sumerians and Akkadians, who had established some of the world's first city-states, the Amorites appeared as outsiders, their way of life contrasting sharply with the organized urban societies along the Tigris and Euphrates. Sumerian and Akkadian texts often describe the Amorites in terms that reflect both intrigue and distrust. In many of these early records, they are called the Amoru, a term that translates to people of the West. The Amorites are frequently portrayed as a nomadic people, unbound by the settled ways of urban life, and some texts describe them as rough or uncivilized, living in tents, drinking milk, and wandering the open lands. To the urbanized Mesopotamians, the Amorites embodied a wild, untamed spirit that stood in stark contrast to their carefully structured cities. In particular, Sumerian tablets from the 3rd millennium BCE reveal a sense of apprehension. The city dwellers saw the Amorites as potential disruptors, a force that could disturb the delicate balance of the city-states. One text even states, "The Amorite does not know grain," emphasizing the cultural divide between the pastoral Amorites and the agrarian Sumerians. This line highlights a fundamental difference in lifestyle and values, with the Amorites seen as unfamiliar with the settled, agricultural life that defined Sumerian civilization. Yet, while initially cast as threats or nuisances, the Amorites soon became recognized for their unique skills and resilience. Over time, these perceptions began to shift. As Amorite communities grew and their members became more involved in the life of Mesopotamian cities, their role evolved from that of outsiders to contributors and even allies. Some Amorites became involved in trade, bringing goods from faraway lands, while others found roles as mercenaries or hired soldiers, valued for their courage and knowledge of the land. In Akkadian texts, the Amorites are mentioned with a more nuanced perspective. The Akkadian Empire, founded by Sargon of Akkad, was known for its expansionist policies, and Sargon himself took an interest in building alliances with neighboring peoples, including the Amorites. These texts reveal that some Amorite leaders were able to negotiate with Akkadian rulers, gaining access to trade networks and forging alliances that would later benefit both parties. As the Amorites assimilated, they learned to navigate Mesopotamian politics and took advantage of the opportunities that the Akkadian Empire provided. By the time of the 3rd dynasty of Amorites had begun to take on leadership roles within various city-states. They were no longer simply herders and wanderers. They had transformed into urban dwellers, integrating into the very fabric of Mesopotamian society. Texts from this period show an increasing respect for the Amorites, even if they were still sometimes regarded as distinct from the local population. The very skills that had once marked them as outsiders, resourcefulness, adaptability, and resilience, now made them ideal candidates for leadership in the complex, often tumultuous world of Mesopotamian city-states. These early accounts reveal a people capable of profound transformation. The Amorites had not only survived in a foreign land, they had earned their place among its people. They had shifted from being perceived as nomads on the fringe of civilization to powerful allies and influential leaders. These ancient tablets, marked with impressions thousands of years old, record a narrative of suspicion, adaptation, and eventual acceptance, a story that captures the essence of the Amorites' journey into the heart of Mesopotamian life. The Amorites' journey through Mesopotamia reached a pivotal moment with the founding of the 1st dynasty of Babylon. It was here, in a small but strategically positioned town along the Euphrates, that the Amorites would shape a legacy that would echo throughout history. Babylon, originally a modest settlement, would soon rise to prominence under Amorite leadership, becoming a city-state that would not only dominate the region but influence cultures for centuries to come. The 1st dynasty of Babylon was established around 1894 BCE by an Amorite chieftain named Sumu-Abum. He and his successors laid the foundation of Babylon's political and economic structure, gradually building a realm of influence among the rival city-states. Yet it wasn't until Hammurabi, the 6th king of this Amorite dynasty, that Babylon truly began its ascent. Hammurabi would come to be remembered as one of the greatest kings in Mesopotamian history, a ruler whose vision and ambition transformed Babylon into a mighty city-state, setting the stage for the Babylonian Empire. Under Hammurabi's rule, which began in 1792 BCE, Babylon experienced unprecedented growth and consolidation of power. Hammurabi was both a strategist and a statesman, and he understood the importance of uniting the fragmented city-states under a single authority. His ambition was not merely to govern, it was to create a unified society with a shared identity under Babylonian rule. Over the course of his reign, he waged numerous campaigns to subdue neighboring cities and extend Babylon's influence. Through a series of calculated alliances, military victories, and diplomatic strategies, he brought much of southern Mesopotamia under his control. One of Hammurabi's most significant contributions to Mesopotamian civilization was the codification of laws, a monumental step toward establishing a just and orderly society. Known today as the Code of Hammurabi, this collection of laws is one of the earliest and most comprehensive legal codes in history. Engraved on a large stone stele, which stood in a public space for all to see, the Code of Hammurabi outlined laws and punishments on matters ranging from trade and property to family and crime. The phrase often associated with this code, an eye for an eye, reflects Hammurabi's attempt to create a society based on justice and accountability. The code was more than just a set of rules, it was a statement of governance and Amorite ideology. It showed that Hammurabi, and by extension the Amorite dynasty, was committed to the welfare of his people. The laws were intended to protect the weak from oppression and to maintain harmony within a diverse population. In this way, the Amorites brought a distinct vision to Mesopotamian governance, one that emphasized fairness, structure, and the rule of law, a remarkable shift from the more localized systems that had previously governed Mesopotamian city-states. With Babylon at the center, the Amorites transformed the city into a cultural and political powerhouse. They invested in infrastructure, building monumental structures that would come to define the Babylonian landscape. Among these were the famed city walls, formidable defenses that symbolized Babylon's strength and prosperity. Within these walls, temples dedicated to Mesopotamian deities, especially Marduk, the patron god of Babylon, rose as symbols of religious and cultural unity. The towering ziggurat of Babylon, believed by some to be the inspiration for the biblical Tower of Babel, served as a testament to the grandeur and ambition of Amorite rulers. Under Amorite leadership, Babylon became a beacon of culture, learning, and religious devotion. Scholars, priests, and scribes gathered in its temples and schools, preserving and expanding upon the knowledge of earlier Sumerian and Akkadian civilizations. The city's influence extended beyond politics and warfare. It was a center of intellectual and religious life, attracting people from all corners of Mesopotamia. Hammurabi's reign marked the height of Amorite influence, but it was also the beginning of a legacy that would endure for centuries. His successors would continue to rule Babylon, carrying forward the laws, administrative systems, and cultural traditions he had established. Even after the Amorite dynasty faded, the impact of their governance endured. Babylon would remain one of the great cities of the ancient world, its name synonymous with wealth, learning, and power. Amorite society was a rich tapestry, woven from their tribal roots and interlaced with the sophisticated urban traditions of Mesopotamia. As they settled and established themselves within city-states, the Amorites brought with them a unique blend of cultural practices that would leave a lasting imprint on Mesopotamian civilization. They were more than conquerors. They were contributors who enriched the cultural, social, and economic fabric of the region. At the heart of Amorite society lay a strong sense of community and kinship. Unlike the tightly organized city-state structures that had characterized Sumerian life, Amorite communities were often organized around clan affiliations. These clans formed the basic social units, with family ties and loyalty to one's kin playing a central role in daily life. The extended family was the foundation of Amorite stability, providing not only social support but also economic cooperation. Each member contributed to the family's collective prosperity, whether through farming, trade, or craftsmanship. The Amorites were skilled agriculturalists, a necessary adaptation to thrive in the fertile valleys of Mesopotamia. They understood the importance of the rivers that nourished the land and developed farming techniques that allowed them to take advantage of the seasonal floods of the Tigris and Euphrates. By cultivating grains, fruits, and vegetables, they secured a stable food supply, enabling their society to grow. Alongside agriculture, they raised livestock, which provided meat, milk, and wool, forming an integral part of Amorite life. The combination of farming and herding suited their traditional lifestyle while supporting the demands of the cities they had come to rule. Trade was another key aspect of Amorite society. From their early days as nomadic people, the Amorites had been adept at bartering and establishing connections across vast distances. As rulers of Babylon and other key cities, they extended these networks further. Through trade, they brought resources like timber from the Levant, metals from Anatolia, and luxury goods from distant regions into Mesopotamia. Babylon, under Amorite influence, became a thriving hub of commerce, where merchants exchanged goods, ideas, and innovations. This trade network not only fueled the economy but also facilitated cultural exchanges, enriching Mesopotamian art, architecture, and technology. Artisan crafts flourished within Amorite society, with skilled craftsmen producing pottery, textiles, jewelry, and tools. The Amorites learned from Mesopotamian techniques and styles, yet they infused their own creativity into their works. Amorite pottery, often decorated with intricate geometric patterns, became a staple in Mesopotamian markets. They were also known for their work in metallurgy, creating tools and weapons that were both functional and artistically significant. Through these crafts, the Amorites expressed their identity and contributed to the diverse artistic landscape of the region. Religion was another domain where the Amorites both assimilated and contributed. While they adopted the gods and rituals of Mesopotamian culture, they also brought their own beliefs into the religious fold. Many Amorite clans worshipped a central deity known as Amoru, or Bel of the Mountain, a god associated with the western lands from which they had come. Over time, Amoru was integrated into the broader Mesopotamian pantheon, showing how the Amorites could introduce new elements without disrupting the established religious order. The Amorites held elaborate ceremonies to honor their deities, and religious rituals were interwoven with daily life. They participated in major Mesopotamian festivals, such as the Akitu, or New Year's festival, held in honor of Marduk, the chief god of Babylon. These festivals were a time of unity and celebration, where citizens from all backgrounds gathered to reaffirm their bonds. In this way, the Amorites maintained their distinct heritage while embracing the shared religious and cultural practices of Mesopotamian society. Amorite music and dance also played a central role in social and religious gatherings. Though much of this aspect of their culture remains obscure, historical records hint at a people who valued song and rhythm, using music to celebrate their gods, express communal pride, and mark important life events. Like other Mesopotamian cultures, the Amorites likely used simple string and percussion instruments, perhaps even introducing new musical styles that would blend with the local traditions over time. Education and law were areas where the Amorites made considerable contributions, particularly under Hammurabi's rule. Schools and scribal training became more accessible, allowing the next generation to acquire literacy and administrative skills essential for governance. The Code of Hammurabi, beyond its role as a legal document, provided insights into daily life, social hierarchies, and the Amorite values of fairness and protection. This code established principles that resonated with Amorite society's emphasis on kinship and community responsibility, ensuring that everyone, from the highest noble to the lowest laborer, had rights and protections. In family life, the Amorites held marriage and kinship bonds in high regard. Marriages were typically arranged within the clan, reinforcing social stability and alliances. Households were multi-generational, with elders respected as keepers of wisdom and tradition. Women played crucial roles, managing households, assisting in agricultural work, and participating in religious rituals. The family was not just a social unit but a source of identity, continuity, and support, essential in a world where survival depended on collective strength. The Amorites were not just conquerors or rulers, they were a people who understood the importance of adaptation and integration. By blending their tribal customs with the sophisticated urban traditions of Mesopotamia, they forged a society that was resilient, resourceful, and deeply connected to both their ancestral roots and their adopted land. Through their agricultural practices, their contributions to trade, their distinctive art, and their participation in the shared religious and social life of Mesopotamia, the Amorites left an indelible mark on the ancient world. Religion was the foundation of Amorite life, woven into every aspect of their society, from governance to daily routines. As they settled in Mesopotamia, the Amorites adopted many deities from their neighbors, particularly the Sumerians and Akkadians, while also honoring gods rooted in their own tribal heritage. This blend of religious traditions allowed the Amorites to cultivate a spiritual identity that was both unique and interconnected with the larger Mesopotamian belief system. At the center of Amorite worship was their patron deity, Amoru, Bel of the Mountain, after whom they are named. Amoru embodied the spirit of the Amorite people, a god of strength, resilience, and protection. For the Amorites, he symbolized the wild and untamed lands of their origins in the western deserts. Amoru was often depicted as a shepherd, which resonated with the Amorites' pastoral roots, and was seen as a guardian of their people as they ventured into Mesopotamian lands. His consort, the goddess Ashratu, represented fertility and the nurturing aspects of life, further balancing Amoru's protective qualities with the promise of abundance and growth. As the Amorites established themselves in Babylon and other major cities, they encountered a complex religious landscape filled with deities governing every aspect of life, from the forces of nature to the principles of justice. Chief among these was Marduk, the patron god of Babylon. Initially a lesser god, Marduk rose to prominence during the Amorite period, especially under Hammurabi, who elevated Marduk as the supreme deity of Babylon. By integrating Marduk into their religious hierarchy, the Amorites not only strengthened their political hold over the region but also provided a unifying spiritual figure that helped consolidate power and foster a sense of shared identity among the Babylonian people. The Amorites recognized the significance of religious festivals, which became key events that unified their communities. The Akitu festival, held annually to honor Marduk, was one of the most important celebrations. During Akitu, elaborate processions filled the streets of Babylon, with priests and nobles offering sacrifices, reciting hymns, and reenacting mythological events. This festival was both a religious and a civic event, reaffirming the king's divine mandate and strengthening the social cohesion of Babylon's citizens. The Akitu not only honored Marduk but also reinforced the Amorite rulers' legitimacy, as they portrayed themselves as divinely chosen protectors of their people. The Amorites believed deeply in divine intervention, and this shaped much of their worldview. For them, success in battle, favorable harvests, and the stability of their rule were all seen as reflections of the gods' favor. Kings sought divine guidance through omens, rituals, and dreams, often consulting priests to interpret the gods' will. This belief in divine influence extended to every level of society, where ordinary citizens would seek the gods' blessing for prosperity, fertility, and health. Temple complexes were not only places of worship but also centers for healing, where priests performed rituals and administered remedies thought to invoke the gods' healing powers. Amorite rulers like Hammurabi intertwined religious authority with their governance. Hammurabi claimed his right to rule directly from the god Shamash, the sun god and deity of justice. This divine endorsement was crucial in legitimizing Hammurabi's laws, most famously codified in the Code of Hammurabi. In the prologue of this code, Hammurabi stated that Shamash had commanded him to bring justice to the land, protect the weak, and promote the welfare of his people. By aligning his laws with divine authority, Hammurabi established a social order that was viewed not only as human but also as divinely ordained, solidifying the Amorites' role as righteous rulers. Amorite mythology was deeply intertwined with Mesopotamian myths, but they brought their own perspectives to these ancient stories. They embraced the Epic of Gilgamesh, a tale that had circulated in Mesopotamia long before their arrival. In this epic, Gilgamesh's journey reflects the universal themes of human ambition, friendship, and the quest for immortality. The Amorites saw parallels in Gilgamesh's struggles and triumphs to their own journey from nomadic life to rulers of an empire. By adopting such stories, the Amorites found ways to connect with the Mesopotamian people on a cultural level, drawing on shared narratives that emphasized the resilience and heroism valued across the region. Their religious practices also included offerings to appease the spirits and deities they believed held sway over the natural and supernatural realms. Temples dedicated to gods like Anu, Enlil, and Ishtar dotted the cities, serving as focal points for community worship. The priests who served these temples held immense power, acting as intermediaries between the people and the gods. They interpreted celestial events, administered temple lands, and played key roles in advising Amorite kings. Through these priestly functions, the Amorite rulers maintained a connection to the divine, reinforcing their own authority while fostering a deep sense of piety among the population. Ultimately, the religious practices of the Amorites were a testament to their adaptability and respect for tradition. By merging their tribal beliefs with Mesopotamian spirituality, they created a religious identity that resonated with both their own people and the wider Mesopotamian population. Through gods like Amoru and Marduk, festivals like the Akitu, and the divine laws of Hammurabi, the Amorites forged a cultural legacy rooted in faith, resilience, and unity. Their spiritual contributions became an integral part of Mesopotamian culture, a legacy that would endure long after their political dominance faded. The Amorite civilization's most defining legacy can be seen in Hammurabi's Code, a legal document that transcended the boundaries of Babylon and influenced the very foundations of law for future generations. Hammurabi, the sixth king of the Amorite dynasty in Babylon, inscribed his laws on stone tablets, showcasing a commitment to a structured society and formal justice that was groundbreaking for its time. This code was more than a simple set of rules. It was a comprehensive legal system that sought to regulate the conduct of individuals, govern the behavior of officials, and provide justice to citizens of all classes. Hammurabi's code covered a range of topics, addressing everything from property disputes and trade agreements to family law and criminal justice. It laid out specific punishments for offenses, following the principle of lex talionis, or the law of retaliation, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Yet, it was not strictly punitive. The code also included protections for the vulnerable, such as widows, orphans, and debtors. This balance of strictness and fairness demonstrated the Amorite dedication to a harmonious society where both individual rights and collective order were valued. The Code of Hammurabi was divided into 282 laws, each addressing a specific aspect of daily life. For instance, laws regarding property rights safeguarded personal and communal assets, ensuring that theft and fraudulent practices were met with severe consequences. Family law, another significant area in the code, governed marriage, inheritance, and divorce, highlighting the importance of family integrity and respect within Amorite society. For example, laws protected the rights of wives and children, establishing that a husband must provide for his family even in cases of separation, and inheritance laws ensured that family assets passed down fairly to offspring. One of the most striking elements of Hammurabi's code was its accessibility. The stone pillars bearing the laws were placed in public spaces where citizens could view them, emphasizing that the laws were not meant to be hidden or selectively applied. This transparency established a social contract between the ruler and his subjects, wherein justice was available to everyone, from the wealthiest noble to the common laborer. By inscribing the laws in stone, Hammurabi created a durable record of his commitment to fairness, showing that the Amorite dynasty sought not only to govern but to rule with a sense of accountability and integrity. The code also contained detailed provisions regarding the responsibilities of public officials. Judges and government officers who accepted bribes or issued unfair rulings were subject to severe penalties, underscoring Hammurabi's determination to create an honest and just administration. These laws promoted a standard of ethical conduct that would prevent abuses of power, fostering trust between the government and the governed. This notion of government accountability was innovative for its time, marking the Amorites as pioneers in the development of a formal justice system. Hammurabi's code was so influential that it would be echoed in subsequent legal systems throughout the ancient world, inspiring codes such as the Hittite laws, the Middle Assyrian laws, and even later Jewish and Greek traditions. Hammurabi's legacy, encapsulated in his code, demonstrated that law could be a tool for unifying diverse groups and fostering societal cohesion. The Amorite civilization's contribution to the history of law was not just in the content of the code itself, but in the concept of codified justice, a legacy that would endure for millennia. The Amorite dynasty, having established Babylon as a major center of power and culture, faced the inevitable challenge of sustaining its empire amidst shifting political dynamics. After centuries of influence, the Amorite reign over Babylon began to unravel. As new groups emerged, including the Kassites from the Zagros Mountains, pressure on the Amorite-controlled regions intensified, leading to fractures within their dominion. The fall of the Amorites was not marked by a single catastrophic event but rather a gradual erosion of their control over Babylon. The Kassites, skilled in warfare and equally ambitious, steadily encroached upon Babylonian territory. Their eventual success in overtaking the city marked the end of the Amorite dynasty's dominance in Mesopotamia. Despite this transition of power, the Amorite influence on Babylonian society and governance endured. The infrastructure they built, the laws they established, and the cultural exchanges they fostered left a permanent mark on Babylonian identity. The Amorite legacy in Babylon was a synthesis of cultural adaptation, legal innovation, and military achievement. Even after their decline, the legacy of Hammurabi's code continued to serve as a model for governance. The city's religious customs, social structures, and administrative practices remained deeply influenced by the Amorites, preserving their contributions even as Babylon entered a new era under Kassite rule. Though the Amorite era faded, their achievements lived on in the city's enduring reputation as a center of law, culture, and influence. The Amorites had transformed Babylon from a modest city into a beacon of civilization, a symbol of resilience, and a testament to the power of integration and adaptation. As Babylon moved forward under new rulers, the Amorite legacy remained woven into the city's foundation, a lasting tribute to a people who had forever shaped the ancient world. The story of the Amorites is a reminder of how nomadic tribes can rise to shape empires, and how their cultural imprint can persist even when political power fades. From their roots in the western deserts to their reign over Mesopotamia, the Amorites carved their place in history, leaving behind a civilization whose echoes would resonate for generations to come. The Amorite civilization, born from the vast, arid lands west of the Euphrates, rose to play a pivotal role in the ancient world. From their humble beginnings as nomadic tribes to their era-defining rule over Babylon, the Amorites demonstrated an unwavering ability to adapt, influence, and lead. Their journey is a testament to the resilience and innovation that defined Mesopotamia itself, a land shaped by countless cultures and communities, each leaving their unique imprint on its history. As we conclude this journey through the history of the Amorites, we reflect on the interconnectedness of civilizations and how one culture's legacy can influence the course of human events. The Amorites remind us that the rise and fall of nations are part of a continuous story, a story where ideas, laws, and values transcend the confines of time and geography. In the silent ruins of Babylon, the spirit of the Amorites still lingers, a lasting tribute to their journey, resilience, and impact on civilization. Their story is a part of humanity's shared heritage, reminding us that every civilization, no matter how transient, contributes to the unending story of human history. The Amorites may be gone, but their legacy endures, a beacon of the indomitable human spirit in the cradle of civilization.